I love Dynasty Warriors. I do. And with every new game and game out there in general, there are some things about the games that just aren't going to be that great. And unfortunately, for Dynasty Warriors Origins, there are some things that just didn't really stick well with me. And in this video, I'm going to count down my picks for the top 10 worst things that are currently in Dynasty Warriors Origins. Origins did a lot of good things well, and if you guys haven't seen my review, go ahead and check it out, because I go over everything briefly with the game of what I liked and what I didn't like. But in this video, I'm going to be focusing on the 10 things that really stuck out to me and I did not appreciate or I did not enjoy from the latest game in Dynasty Warriors Origins. If you guys are enjoying the content, would definitely appreciate a like or subscribe before we jump in. If you want to see a specific video for Origins, let me know down below or check the playlist on the channel. I've done a ton so far. And with that being said, we're going to talk about the top 10 worst things about Dynasty Warriors Origins. All right, starting off at number 10, this is kind of like a throwaway. I had 9, I couldn't think of another one, so I'm just going to throw this one in here. It's, I guess, a bad thing. It's not the best. It would be great to add for a little quality of life, but not being able to skip the tutorial and having limited restart points. So since you're only allowed to like load the same playthrough in terms of going back and replaying things, if you want to do something from the prologue, if you're trying to look for certain bonds like Zhang Jiao, right, you have to sit through the prologue tutorials. Or if you want to get something from chapter 1 or chapter 2, there's no midpoint starting point for those, so you have to start from the beginning, you know, kind of slog through it, which I found kind of tedious to do. So I found that to be quite the slog as I was hunting for things. Now, moving into number 9, we're in the actual list now. This is things I've actually written down. We're starting off with crossing rivers being one of the worst things from Origins. I don't understand why you have to be so vulnerable there. Like, I get, you know, if you are traversing through, you know, hip level water, you're going to slow down a little bit, but that doesn't stop people from being able to like jog through the water or hold a shield or their sword. I don't understand how crossing a river renders you like helpless. Didn't make any sense to me. Didn't seem like it was a very useful thing to add. Just thought it was a little weird, so wanted to throw it in here at number 9. But yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say about that. Crossing rivers, vulnerable. I guess, you know, yeah, cool. All right, next up coming in at number 8. Again, if you watched the review, we're going to revisit it once again. I think a couple of other miscellaneous people might have had the same treatment, but this is the one that sticks out the most for me, and that is Ling Xiao's death. Very tasteless kind of way to show it. I don't think it was the best way to do it. Rushing the main camp, of course he's going to die. You know, of course that's going to happen. You know, I was expecting maybe, I think he did it on one, like Gan Ning jumps on the boat that they're on and kills him. Nice little cinematic, nice little something. Ling Tong has a big reaction. That would have been great. But no, he runs into the unreachable area. It's so simple. You run to the main camp by yourself? Of course you're gonna die. Why wouldn't he die, right? A very tasteless way of handling a, you know, small thing like that. I heavily disdained that part when I watched it. Anyway, moving on to number 7. Next up, coming in at number 7, we've got the attack of the foreshadowing disease. Again, similar to, and maybe because, you know, I and most of you guys know the story very well, so them sitting there being like, pointing out the Puyang fall.
I'm quite sure you don't need me to tell you this, but it would be a disaster if Puyang were to fall while we are moving into Shu.
Or the fire attack.
What worries me most is the chance of a fire attack.
Oh my god, bro.
You know, it's just, it was a little too much. Like, it's okay to have speculation, and I get they're strategists, or at least, you know, Guojia and Shunyu, smart guys, yes. You can pick up patterns to predict things, great. But to the point where it was like, it was like, you didn't really have another choice to think about it. Like, if you're a brand new player, it's like, oh, it's going to happen versus, is it going to happen? What is going to happen next? You know what I mean? I found a little bit of a pet peeve with this one. It's not a huge one. It's not the worst thing. Yes, they're smart, but they're not going to figure it out. They basically figured it out, which is, I just don't think that's how exactly a conversation like that would go. I think they could have handled it just a little bit differently. Just a minor one here, nothing too crazy. Now, coming at number 6, I got a lot written down for this one. This is a lot of Sun Jian coming in. How they handled a lot of Sun Jian was kind of weird for me. It was kind of weird. So first of all, let's talk about his death. The cutscene. So his line is, "Oh, so you come as well," and then he gets splat, right? It doesn't really make a lot of sense because in the first one where he dies, if it's an enemy that he's saying that to, why would he say that, right? Why would he say that? Like, let's say it's Bai Luan approaching him. Why would he say that to him, right? If he's looking into our character, like if there's a magic thing happening where like Bai Luan is somehow disguising his face as an ally, Huang Gai, or even the MC, Zilla Wan. I don't know about the, well, oh, so you've come as well. What does that mean, right? Why would, it's so, I can't think of a better word, but it's so like informal. If it was Huang Gai, he would say something specific, right? If it was our character, there'd be a different way that he said it. So I don't really know who he's talking to when he says it. It's a little weird. And then when we save him, now it's implying that it's our character. It was a little weird with his actual death. Then going into, so Huang Gai's talking about his choice, about wanting to stay dead, which I just, we're going to talk about that next. But first of all, he's able to sit there because he's got like deep wounds or something. So Huang Gai says he's got very deep wounds. He can't move, or it's deep, like painful wounds. And then they go into the scene of him talking to him. He's just sitting on the bench. Bro's sitting on the bench like nothing happened. He doesn't look very immobile to me. And then on top of that, faking the death for the good of protecting his family. I just don't think that would be in line with Sun Jian. It's a little out of place for him. I mean, I understand it. I understand why they did it. I can understand why a father would do that. I don't think that it is something that he would do. Even like, let's say it's for a temporary thing, which I guess it kind of was. It just seemed a little out of place for him. I think he would have approached it a little bit differently. I think they're having a hard time really figuring out what to do with Sun Jian, or like with the Wu kingdom. So I guess this is what they fall back on. I didn't like it. I think there's a lot of continuity issues with it. Yeah, that's all I got for that. All right, top 5. These are the heavy hitters right here. Starting off with number 5. Pretty simple to explain. It's not going to take too long to go into. We've got a silent protagonist, both in terms of talking and being talked to, unless they say Zilla Wan. I would have at least liked to have a character where they say the name, because it's so weird when they're like, "Oh," and then there's a pause, and then they say the next line. It's it's not super jarring. It's not as bad as Dynasty Warriors 9, but it's just weird that they're like, like when the name's in the middle of a sentence and they have that pause. It's very strange. I wish they would have incorporated some sort of code. It's something to where when whatever the player puts in, they say it. Of course, people can troll and put things in there that, but they can filter that out. Filter out things you're not allowed to put in. It's easy. But it's just really weird to have a silent protagonist who is voiced. He is voiced in the game when he does his musos, when he does his evades. He says something. He has lines. But for the cutscenes and for being talked to or talking back, there's no noise. Maybe that would have made the game a lot longer, I guess. It takes away from the interactiveness, in my opinion, a little bit. It just would have been cool to, say, "Oh, Night Owl, it's good to see you again." It would be cool to have that instead of just, "Oh, it's good to see you again." That weird pause. I did not like that. And also, just to throw it in there real quick, I also don't like the fact that the choices you make as the protagonist, as the character, has no effect on the story. I think that really took a lot of uniqueness out of the playthrough. I understand it's more of an RPG kind of thing. You play what you're given and you play the character story, but there's no point in choosing a different answer outside of the fact of hearing a different response. Being a little more confrontational with Zhongfei and Xiahou Dun, they had their responses to it. That was great, but how does it make them really feel? You have these personality choices that you can make with the protagonist, but it doesn't affect anything in the stories, doesn't affect their bonds, their relationships. I thought they would be a little bit more intricate with that, but it just seems that it fell flat in total. So All right, number 4. We've talked about it. Other people have talked about it. I think unanimously we all can agree. Characters with certain weapons, cloned weapons, was not the most fun thing to watch. Some of the weapons fit. Yue Jin with the spear, that fit. Okay, you know, I can see that. He's a spear guy. Josh Shu with the wheels? Josh Shu with the wheels. My God. Huang Guy with the gauntlet is something that I'm used to it now, but it just doesn't fit him. I don't think that is a fitting thing for him. It just doesn't work. Zenji with the throwing knife. It's not the best, but really? You're doing that? Zhang He goes back to the spear, which was fine. I don't mind that. Dong Zhuo with the twin axes. Dong Zhuo spinning that fat ass around like that. Get out of here. There ain't no way Dong Zhuo is going to be wielding twin axes like he's fucking Zhang Liao. It's not going to happen. So this is a big gripe for me. It's one of the biggest ones that I hated about Dynasty Warriors Origins is certain characters getting certain weapons. You know, Sun Tzu with the gauntlets, they kind of fit him. He's a brawler. Okay, that's fine. You know, some good things, I guess, came out of it. He got his sword back, but he's got the basic movement. It's not like it's unique to him. And then I think most of the other characters are fine. If I went through each one, I could probably point out which ones I did and didn't like. But characters with certain weapons, cloned weapons, was a huge problem. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Moving on to the top 3. Now, coming in at number 3, this is personally for me. I don't like this at all. It just did not, I guess, feel right because it was like every character. All right, coming in at number 3 is I don't like that most of the female characters have a thing for the protagonist. I think that's so dumb, especially characters that we know have other people. Yue Ying is not. She's not us. She was Zhuge Liang. That's her. That's you know her man. You know Zenji, Diao Qian. You know Sun Tongzhang. It's just they have all these hidden, overbearing prowess that our protagonist has that they cannot resist. The allure, whatever you want to say, or the reason is that they all seem to flirt and hit on him, right? And it does extend to some of the men as well. You know, some of the guys have some really crazy stuff, which I'll talk about in a different video, but. I didn't like that. I didn't like that there are female characters that especially have other, like Diao Qian would never. I'm not saying would never, but Diao Qian is Lu Bu's girl. It's so weird to have her flirting with the main character. I didn't like that. I don't mind the camaraderie and the friendship and the thank you and the sharing of who they are. Great. Do that. But the whole feelings and staying in your room and let me, you know, measure every part of your body. Bro, what are you doing? Like, we don't need to do that in the game, you know what I'm saying? So, I think they went a little overboard with the female characters liking the protagonist, but they decided it. I didn't like it. It's one of the worst things to see. Led to some funny moments for sure, but other than that, I was just like, I don't think that's the best thing to do. Now, coming up next into the silver medal, I talked about it again in my review because I just did not like it. By the one being really only positive for the Shu forces, for Liu Bei. Like, as soon as you meet him, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to attack you. You're with Liu Bei? Oh, my bad, man, I didn't mean to. He's a good guy. He deserves to live. Like, bro, like, Shu's already got enough against them because it's already online. It's already circulating. Shu's a good guy. Shu's a protagonist. Shu's, you know, this, Shu's that. Shu's great. And, you know, we all know that Shu has their flaws. But now this new character with the perspective of Shu being so great, Liu Bei being so great, the whole team being so great, it just puts a negative light on them. And then on top of that, they also have a positive light for Sun Quan, for the Sun family, right? Even though he, quote-unquote, kills Sun Ce, right? He killed Sun Ce, and then he's like, oh, you know what, Sun Quan, you're actually not that bad of a guy. Oh, God. You know who's the only team that doesn't get that leeway? Is Mr. Cao Cao. Ain't nobody like Cao Cao. And I don't get that. I don't understand why they have to do that. Why does Cao Cao and the Wei Forces have to be the villain? And because of the character's continuity now, unless for some reason they change it, if Dynasty Warriors Origins 2 comes out, guess what he's going to be on the side of, oh, I hate Cao Cao. I hate the Wei team. There's no good that comes from that. Shu's going to get disliked even more. You know what I mean? It would have been much better if he had a neutral stance and he was doing it for his own purpose, which he is. But the way they went about it, the light is that Shu's the greatest, Liu Bei's up number 1, Wu's number 2, and Cao Cao is not even on the leaderboard. Cao Cao's not even a contender, right? And I think that's just a bad place to be for the game, the fandom. If you're trying to bring in new fans, everyone that is experiencing this for the first time is going to assume Cao Cao and all of his people are the bad guys, which is not true. I think each kingdom has their flaws, each kingdom has their bright point, and that's the way it should be. It should be a very neutral stance for all of them, because they all have good ideals and they all have really shitty things that they've done, right? And that's just the way it is. And finally, coming in at number 1, shouldn't be too surprised to see it up here. I don't know how you guys felt about it going through your playthroughs, but I could not stand the mispronunciations on these characters. My goodness. At least with Lubu, or Italian man Louis Boo.
Louis Boo's. Louis Boo is attacking Puyang.
With Louis Boo.
Louis Boo's reckless bravery.
At least they were consistent. Every character that said Lu Bu said it incorrectly. So, okay, every character. Then you've got characters saying the Soon family, right? The Swan family. Swan Su, Swan Su, Swan Chue.
Give Lord Swan Su. Lord Swan Su. Lord Swan Su. Out Lord Swan Chuen.
What the fuck are you? Who is directing these people? Sun Tzu, I don't think, has a consistent name throughout anyone talking about him. There are certain characters that say it correctly each time. Zhou Yu says and pronounces everything correctly. He says Wu, he says Sun Tzu, Sun Jian. Like, he pronounces the name, Sun Changjiang, he pronounces the names correctly. But my god, the people that voice Lu Su, Han Dong, I don't know who directed them, but who the hell told him to say Swan Su? Where do you see the W? What do you mean Swan? Swan? My god. And there was also some other little things I didn't like. So I mentioned it in my review. Shunyo and Shunyu, they got mixed up a couple times, which I guess is expected. That happens. I mean, if you're new to the game, you see both of those names, you're like, oh, they're pronounced similar, right? That's going to happen. Shunyo and Shunyu got mixed up a couple times. Taishitsu coming to Liu Bei and asking for help with Kong Rong. Why does he keep saying Kong Zhong?
Lord Kong Zhong. Lord Kong Zhong's aide.
Where's the ZH? It's Kong Rong. What is going on here? I don't understand. Am I not understanding the pronunciation here? If Kong Rong should be Kong Rong, not Kong Zhong, right? Every single character, even Liu Bei said it. Anyone that said Kong Rong said Kong Zhong. Almost got me saying it wrong here. Yeah, number one problem, the worst thing about Dynasty Wars Origins, in my opinion, is the pronunciation. And it's just inconsistent. You know, like, woo. Everybody, some of them are saying, ooh, Wu Huan. What you mean, ooh? Like, Guo Jia, he says Wu Huan, not Wu Huan, Wu Huan. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for the video here. Hope you all enjoyed it. It just seems, I get maybe they're trying to like overcorrect themselves and they just stumbled upon a whole new pile of dookie. And that's what we came out with. It's just, some of the pronunciation, it was very distracting. I was like, my god, it's not great to hear. Just because there are bad things about this game doesn't make it a bad game. Every Dynasty Wars game is not perfect. Every Dynasty Wars game has its flaws. Origins overall for me has been a great game. Again, if you haven't seen the review, check it out. And I talk about everything from an overall standpoint on how I feel about Origins. But in this video, we talked about, I mean, these things just need to be addressed, especially the top 5. The bottom 5 are like things I had to like think about. But top 5 were like immediate, first playthrough, notes, everything I needed in order to make this video. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, definitely appreciate a like, comment, or subscribe. And then I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.